Hey there. Good morning, everybody. How are ya? I hope you're doing well. I want to make sure we're good. Okay. All right. So, I just realized 11 a.m. around here in Tornado Alley, they also do the tornado test the first Wednesday of every month at 11. So, hopefully, you can't hear that the way I can hear it. But if you can, it'll be going away in a second. All right, guys, it's April. We made it to a new month. How are you? I hope you're having an awesome week so far. Okay, episode 9 of the Transforming Anxiety podcast is out as of this morning. And this week we are talking about why you need to stop calling yourself anxious. Okay, so I hear people do this like they're just stating the news, right? They think they're just reporting the facts. Oh, I'm just an anxious person. I'm just wired that way. Anxiety is just part of who I am. You see people doing this, and I'm sure that you can catch people that you know or yourself doing this with, people pleasing, procrastination, always being late, being really neat, really tidy, being a morning person, being a night person. There's all sorts of things that we just kind of give ourselves this out, like, oh, this is just who I am. I don't need to think about that. I don't need to work on that. I don't need to challenge the fact that I'm believing that and telling this story over and over, right? And that's what we're talking about today, because this is a story that we tell over and over. And it is not helpful to talk about ourselves as anxious. There is no upside to that. So let me give you an example of something different and see how this lands for you. If you get strep throat, do you start calling yourself strep throat? Or if you break a toe, do you start calling yourself broken toe? No, right? You say, I have strep throat, knowing full well you're going to recover, you're going to heal. Maybe you need a couple days in bed, you need some antibiotics, and then in a few days, you're going to be back to perfectly healthy, right? Same thing with a broken toe. It hurts. It may hinder you from doing a few things that you love doing. It may just make things painful and inconvenient, but it's not like all of a sudden you identify with broken toe, like this is who you now are. This is how I am now. I'm just broken toe. Sorry, you'll have to deal with me, broken toe, right? Why do we talk about anxiety this way? Isn't it weird? I am anxious. We talk about a lot of our emotions this way. We talk about a lot of identities and roles this way. I am this. I am a procrastinator. I am angry. I am fill in the blank. Now, here's what I want to pay attention to. Of course, we're talking specifically about anxiety because that's what we do here. And this is about the Transforming Anxiety podcast, and these are the conversations that we have here. This applies to a lot of different emotions. This applies to a lot of different roles. So take this with anxiety, but just know that you can take anxiety out and plug anything in. Plug in another emotion, plug in a role you play, whether it's wife, whether it's mom, whether it's employee, whether it's friend, whether it's neighbor, right? You can plug anything in there. So just know that this applies to far more than just anxiety. But here's what I want you to know. Okay, so beliefs, let's talk about beliefs for just a second. Beliefs are just thoughts that you think over and over and over again. Okay? So belief systems, some examples of things that people have strong beliefs about are things like religion, politics, violence, loyalty, war, animal rights, right? These are things that even as I'm saying them out loud, your belief system probably kind of flashes through your mind. You know exactly what you believe about these certain things. You know exactly what group you fall into, right? What kind of, like, what member or, where do you belong, right? So this is how belief systems get formed. We have thoughts that we think over and over and over again. Now, when we talk about something like identifying, some of those belief systems become identities, right? So if we say over and over again, I am anxious, I'm an anxious person, this is how I'm wired, I always feel anxious. If we start saying that over and over again, we start to truly believe that we are anxious, right? I am anxious. Then it becomes an identity. And then it becomes part of like, this is how I present myself to the world. This is who I am, right? 5'4", dark hair, anxious, right? Like it's just the news. Like it's just another fact about who we are. We forget that that's just a belief system that we have created by thinking thoughts over and over and over again. Meaning we can challenge those thoughts. We don't have to just agree with those thoughts. We don't have to go along with that kind of thinking. Those are all things that can be challenged. Belief systems can and should be challenged from time to time. Identities should be questioned and challenged. Is this working for you? Is this serving you? Because here's the thing, identifying as somebody who is anxious, there's no upside to that. There is no value in calling yourself anxious perpetually, right? There's nothing good that comes of that. It gives what ended up happening with me is that I convinced everybody around me that I was anxious. And then they started to enable my anxiety. Oh, Kelly might not be able to go because she might be too anxious. Kelly might not be up for it because she might be too anxious. So not only had I fooled myself and created a belief system for myself, I had roped in some friends and family members too, all well-intentioned, by the way. This is nothing against them. They were trying to take care of me. They were trying to help me. But I had them telling the same stories. They had the same belief system. They were buying into the same identity. Oh, Kelly's just anxious, right? Like that was part of who it is. Like, Kelly's 5'4" and anxious. We all acted, like I said, like we were just reporting the news. We're not. And there's no upside to that. All that creates is that I, and then everybody in my inner circle, were constantly arguing for the limitation of anxiety, right? I didn't have to challenge that. I didn't have to get outside my comfort zone. I didn't have to grow or progress. I didn't have to change anything. We could all just write it off as anxious. And the truth is, it was starting to really limit me. There were things I couldn't go to. There were things I couldn't do. There were things I couldn't participate in because I was anxious. And we all had agreed to tell the story and hold on to the belief system that that's who I was. So if you're somebody who talks about yourself this way and holds on to the idea that you are anxious, and that's just part of the news of who you are, I want to offer you this idea that you can challenge that and that you should challenge that. There is no upside to arguing for that limitation. And if you get really quiet and really still about it, I think you're going to find the same thing, that it doesn't feel good, right? It feels really limiting, and it keeps you out of what you want to be doing in life. If instead you viewed anxiety like you view strep throat or broken toes and knew that it was something that you could feel and that may not be fun, but that it was temporary, right? Part of being a human being alive and awake on the planet is that sometimes you're going to get sick. Sometimes you're going to get injured. Sometimes you're going to feel icky emotions. All of it's just part of the deal. So if we could treat anxiety the same way that we treat strep throat and broken toes, right? Then all of a sudden, you're not arguing for the limitation, right? It's not like, oh, well, she can't go because she's strep throat. She won't be able to do the race because she is broken toe. How sad, right? She might have to miss one race because she has a broken toe, but she'll be there the next time, right? Or she maybe is staying in bed today because she's got strep throat, but next weekend she's going to be like good as new. Same with anxiety. Allow it, feel it, and then we can move on. But if we start identifying with it, if we start telling that story over and over again, we start to become anxiety. We believe that's who we are. It's just not a good way to go. So, okay, episode today, episode number 9 of the Transforming Anxiety podcast. It's out as of this morning on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also find it on the website. All about how important it is that we stop talking about ourselves, whether this is inner dialogue or whether this is how you're describing yourself to other people, right? Now, you know how I love to create worksheets for you. So there is a worksheet that goes along with this. Come on over. I've linked it in the description of the video here, kellyhanlonmccormick.com/podcast/9. You can get, it's 3 worksheets this time, actually, all about beliefs. So digging into some beliefs that you've been holding on to, digging into whether these beliefs are working for you or not. Now, remember, there are a lot of belief systems that work for us, right? There are a lot of belief systems that really serve you. I mean, there's many, many people who will say, well, you know, my religious beliefs or my political beliefs or the beliefs I have about being a good wife and mom, these really work for me. Great. Keep them. If they feel good and they work for you, go for it. Why argue with that? It's the ones like, I believe I'm an anxious person. I'm going to argue with that all day long. That's not working for you. There's no upside to that. So those are the beliefs that we want to really look at with these worksheets. So, you know, identify what beliefs you've got that are working for you. Give yourself credit for that and just know this is a belief system. This is something I'm choosing to think over and over again. It's something that I'm choosing to believe. Because this is like the crux of the whole thing. We get to choose what we believe. You can choose to believe anything, right? Nobody can take that away from you. You get to choose whatever you want to believe. So if you're believing that you're anxious, let's start challenging that. You can choose to believe otherwise, okay? So these worksheets move you through that, and just the first 2 are kind of like digging into current beliefs and what those look like, what those feel like, how do they feel, how do they work for you? And, you know, a lot of these things, it's about digging up those belief systems like we don't realize we have. You know, one of the questions is about, you know, what do you believe about your health? Physical health. What do you believe to be true about your physical body and your health? Have you thought about that? Right? What do you believe about spirituality? Right? What do you practice and believe in spiritually? How does it feel to you? What do you believe about money? That's a big one for people. What do you believe to be true about finances and wealth and your financial health? Does that feel good? Right? So looking at all those beliefs. And then the last worksheet is about believing new things. If you're looking at this stuff and you're like, some of this is not great, so I want to work on some of this, that last worksheet is going to start uncovering the process for how do you start believing new things. How, when you choose something and you want to believe it and you want to practice it and you want to start living into that belief, how do you do that? So that's the last worksheet. And remember, guys, if you want, you know, grab those worksheets and look at them, start working through them. If you want some additional help, I think this is the beauty of coaching. A lot of this is really hard to do on our own. It's hard to do without a third party kind of unbiased perspective, somebody who's holding space for us and asking us powerful questions so that we can keep rising to those powerful questions with powerful answers and creating what we want, right? And uncovering what we want. Sometimes it's a matter of like, I don't even know where I want this to go. So if you want some help with this, come on over to the website, kellyhanlonmccormick.com/coaching. You can book a free mini session with me. We'll talk for about 15 minutes on the phone. We'll work through some of this. You can bring your beliefs worksheets to that call and say, okay, here's what I've got. Here's where I'm stuck. Or here's where I've got, here's some questions. Or here's what I've got, and I don't even know where to go from here. You will be surprised what we can do in 15 minutes. And it's super powerful to work with somebody who is helping you really create what you want to create, whether this is achievements, whether this is goals, whether it's just getting clear on where you're at, right? So much of this work is about self-knowledge and self-awareness and self-understanding. People talk a lot about self-love, and I think self-love is a lovely thing. You can't love what you don't know. This has got to start with self-understanding. This has got to start with self-awareness. This has got to start with just getting to know who you are and where you're at in the first place. You know that saying about, like you can have all the maps in the world, you can have the most detailed instructions of how to get to where you want to go, but if you don't know where you are, does no good, right? You have to know where you're starting from to know how to get where you're going. So if you want some help with this, come on over. Like I said, kellyhanlon.com, kellyhanlonmccormick.com /coaching. And you can book a free mini session with me there. So check out the podcast, grab your worksheets. Feel free, put a comment in the video, whether you're watching this now or whether you're watching this on replay. I will get back to you. Send me a DM. Come find me on Instagram. I'm at khanlonmccormick. We can chat over there. I've been posting a lot of real coaching nuggets over on Instagram, so that's been kind of fun, and some good conversations are happening there. So that's it for today, you guys. Stop calling yourself anxious. Stop it. All right. Have an awesome, awesome week. Check out all the goodies for you, your worksheets, podcasts. Come on over and book your free mini session, and I will see you next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central. Take care, guys. Bye.